Welcome to this episode of Expedition to Soul. This is a coffee chat replay. So, once per week, I host a coffee chat in our community space. It's hosted in a software called The Circle. It's where we host our communities for our programming. And every Sunday, most every Sunday, I host a coffee chat in there where we vision cast for the week ahead. We use practical tools like planning, but also the magical act of vision casting to align our lives to the way that we want to feel. And I usually bring a little extra oomph to these conversations as well. So today's podcast episode is a coffee chat replay. Sit back, unwind, grab a pen and paper, grab your planner, your vision board, and let's freaking do this. If the word witch makes you feel full of power and excitement, if you love personal development but loathe boring love and light conversation, if a sexy combo of witchery and inner work piques your interest, you're in the right place. Welcome home, Magic Maker, and welcome to Expedition to Soul, the podcast brought to you by the Sisters Enchanted. Hello, friends. Welcome to today's edition of the Sunday Coffee Chat. I'm Sarah, your fearless leader here at the Sisters Enchanted. And in these Sunday coffee chats, it is my hope to ignite a fire within you to enjoy the week ahead, to make it the most magic one yet. Imagine if every week we made that week the most magic week yet, and they just compounded and compounded and got more and more magic. Just imagine that. Like, how would that look at the end of the year? I think it would look pretty epic. So what we do in these Sunday coffee chats is I encourage you to get out a planner, a piece of paper, and think about the week ahead. And today, as part of this thinking about the week ahead, we're also going to talk very briefly a little bit about being playful and putting something on your calendar, your schedule for this week ahead around tapping into your inner child. All right. So, coffee chat. Why do we do this? We ask you all the time, how do you want to feel? All the time we ask you that. And so many people, I know this because I ask this question a lot and I talk to a lot of people. Folks will say, oh, I want to feel X, Y, and Z. And then when it is time to feel that way a few days later, we'll follow up, say, well, what was your intention or your goal? And people can't remember. And it happens all the time. So I want you to consider for yourself, how do you want to feel for this week ahead? Now, some of you here might be taking the lunar tracking challenge with us. And if you are, then we asked you to decide how you want to feel for this lunar cycle. So let's just back up a little bit here. Let's pull back 3 steps. We can look at the year ahead and forecast and think about, how do I want to feel for this year? Do I have a word for the year? How am I setting the stage for this year? Are there goals that I want to reach, things I want to do? So we have this on a yearly level. And then we have our seasons. So we are pretty freshly, a couple of weeks now into our summer season. So once we are in the summer season, how do you want to feel this season? And what do you want to do this season? So we start, what was the year? And then we dial it in to the season. And then we can look at the lunar cycle. And this all just sort of stacks and brings awareness and presence. And it can feel overwhelming. Like, isn't that a lot to manage? Well, they should be like nesting dolls, where one fits in the other. So they shouldn't be different. They shouldn't be incongruent. They should fit in like a nice little pipeline where one gets you closer to the next. So when we know, okay, well, this lunar cycle, I want to feel X, Y, and Z, however that is you want to feel, then we want to think about the week ahead. And this is how we start to take this big macro thing of like, what do I want for my life? And we start to make it small and in the present moment, where we actually start to make it happen. Now, this intertwines with metaphysics and crystals and tarot, because those are the tools that we turn to when we feel like we need support. We are witchy people. We are folks who love the unknown and the ethereal and like dancing in the world of things we can't see. We love to do that. And so we can use that energy and pull it into our practical lives and say, Um, this is practically what I want to have happen in my life. This is how I want to feel. And then these are the ways that I'm going to make my practical life look like magic. So I feel more free to tap into this metaphysical world I want to be dancing in. All right. So that is what we do. So every single week, I want you to look ahead for your week coming up and think of it as actually like a vision casting exercise, a vision casting exercise. And in that way, you are going to look and say, well, so far, this is what's on my calendar for the week. This is what I've committed to. This is where my time, my energy, your time is energy. It's the one thing you cannot get back. This is where you're committing your energy this week. And we're going to look at that and say, does that align with the way I want to feel? All right. So that's step number one. That's the thing I want to invite you to do each and every week. Practical tools. Since I've missed a couple coffee chats, I do use the Sisters Enchanted Lunar Planner sort of as my daily go-to, but I do also utilize a printed out version of a calendar that has the hours of the day on it, and I sort of mock my week up in that way, and then I use a digital calendar to keep me where I need to be. So many of you can relate. You have very full lives. I have a very full life. I run a company. I work within the Sisters Enchanted full time. I homeschool 2 kids. I take care of my grandparents. Like, I have a very full life, and I'm very committed to my health and body wellness. So I spend and probably 90 minutes a day, like doing things to make my body feel good. So my week is very full most weeks. And what I can do and what I invite you to do is look at this week ahead. Everything that is a commitment, a time commitment, it has to happen at a certain time. That might be work, it could be appointments, it could be dates with significant others or your children or your parents, like a date with yourself. Put it all on the calendar. It has to happen on this day at this time. Those are these time commitments. And then from there, we want to look at your priorities. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do to make you feel the way you want to feel this season? And then start putting that in places where you have room. Now, here are some things people run into. One, they have no room for the things they actually want to do. Well, if that's you, it's time to start making some life decisions. What are you going to do about that? Maybe you can't do it tomorrow, but you get the ball rolling for a year from now for your life to look differently. So that's a choice you have to make. Other people might feel like their calendar is way too wide open and therefore they don't know where to start. And in that case, turn to things that you want to turn into commitments. Like every day you go for a walk at 9 a.m. or every day you get dressed at X, Y, and Z time. That's actually a really common problem for a person who has reached retirement or empty nester time, or even people that used to work and are now stay-at-home parents or stay-at-home guardians of aging parents. And you used to like have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock a.m. every day, and now you don't. And so learning to structure your time so that you own it and it doesn't own you is a whole new thing for you to learn. So look at your week ahead as a vision casting experience. Everything goes in there. And then just pull back and say, does this align with how I want to feel, the goal for my year? What's it looking like? What is it looking like? And then adjust and move forward from there. So in these Sunday coffee chats, I really encourage you to create, this is your reminder to take a moment every single Sunday or Monday or whatever your reset day is for the week ahead. I love to look at Mondays as like the first day of the week. So every Sunday I do this. And I invite you to do it too, because it becomes this practice in living the life you want to be living. It's very easy to sit down and say, I'm going to pull some more tarot cards. I'm going to set a crystal grid. I'm going to get my herbs out and make a tea. I'm going to meditate and channel my guides today. And then Monday hits or Tuesday hits or whatever your day is, and like life feels chaotic and like it has control over you. And what happens is that we disconnect from everything we're putting out there. So we go through all this effort to work with these tools that we love, and then we live out of alignment with that in our daily lives. So the way to bring that all into alignment, so you feel like a person who has power and not like you're just doing power during your spiritual practice, is to align your life with the way you want to feel. So make this part of your sacred practice. Your Sunday, light a candle, get out your favorite crystal, talk to people in your home, like make it a community event, whatever works for you. Try different things. It's trial and error. And, you know, make it happen though. Make it happen. Make it happen. I saw a comment fly by. I do like try to keep my eyes on the comments, but not get distracted by all of them. Is like this idea of loving to get the to-do list done. Listen, I love a to-do list. I am frequently part of my practice that I do with this. And I very much believe this as my part of my spiritual practice. Like, I would not say this is not part of my spiritual practice because I do all the things that all of us do. I charge up my crystals. I write the affirmation. I do the new and full moon ritual. I pull my tarot cards. And then if I just like willy-nillied my life through without any waffling through the day, all of that would be for naught. And I know that. So as part of my practice, this is part of it. And I don't do it every week, but I would say about every other week or so, I take a piece of paper and I just, everything that I know in my mind that has to be done or that's like taking space in my brain, and I just put it down on a piece of paper with no real rhyme or reason. So I just did this, and like on the list is my kids collect postcards when we go. We do a lot of East Coast travel right now, and my kids, I let them get a postcard from any place that we go to, and then I ordered these sticky dots so that they can hang them on their bedroom wall, or we have a big camper, we're camper RV people, or they can hang them on the camper wall next to their beds. But the sticky dots came in the house, ended up in a basket, and like never moved beyond there. So on the list is postcards is on the list. And then rescheduling my dentist appointment is on the list. And getting the books that we're never going to read again out of the house, that's on the list. And I just like totally brain dump everything that's on my mind goes on there, like organizing the freezer or going through to see what's been in there for 2 years and we're never going to eat, right? Like all this stuff just goes on there. And then from there, I start to look at the list and say, what can somebody else do? It doesn't have to be me. Like my daughter, she's going to be 10 in less than 2 weeks. She'll be 10. So I don't have to get those sticky dots. I can say, hey, can you go get those sticky dots and start hanging up postcards? Like she's very capable of doing it, but I'm the one holding the weight of it. My husband, he does not work outside the house. So I could say to him, hey, we need the freezer cleaned out. Here's a list. Here's a to-do list, right, of things other people can do. So I go through the list. What do I not have to do as the heaviest load bearer in our house? And then from there, what needs to go on the calendar because I have to do it and it needs to get done? And then from there, what's left that's just not going to get done today, tomorrow, this week, maybe not this month. And then it just gets tucked away for the future. But I rest easy knowing that I've not forgotten about it. But I also know it can't happen now because I don't have the energetic capacity or the time capacity or the financial capacity to get it done right now. But it's not lost and it's not taking up my brain space anymore. So that's part of that practice. And I do it, like I said, about every other week, I would say. I don't find that I need to do it every week because my life does not change that much week to week to have to constantly like redo this activity. All right. So part of your vision casting for the week ahead, AKA planning for the week ahead, I want you to also think about where you're making space this week or next week or sometime this summer. Now, remember, summer goes well into September. Like per the seasons, and is that astronomically? I don't know. The summer goes until the first day of fall, which is the third week of September. Many people, though, will look at September as ending right after Labor Day here in the US. Whatever, wherever you put that in your head, I like to keep it true to third week of September. It gives me more time to live out my list. We're doing our good witch, bad bitch summer here. So I've got my list and I definitely am going to need until September to get some things off of my list because I've got a very full summer, very full like the last week of July all the way through August for me is very, very full. So some of these things I need time in September to get them done. But I want you to think about where you are putting something that's just fun on your calendar, that is playful. In the summer, we do shadow work. And the reason that we teach shadow work as being a summer activity, well, a lot of reasons, but one, uh, we can look at the sun illuminate. We only see shadows in the sunlight, right? Or when it's dark out and you shine a light, and then that's where you see the shadow. So when we think of like the science behind shadows, we need light to see the shadows. Two, the energy of summer is a fiery sort of energy. And with that fire transforms. So with fire, we can heat our food, we can heat our homes and keep us alive, or we can like burn everything down and cause disaster. Well, that's your shadow also. Your shadow is part of you. It's part of your stories. It's part of who you are. And actually, we draw strength from our shadows. Your shadow experiences are literally where your strength and resolve comes from, because without the experiences that gave you the shadows, you would not have needed the strength to begin with. So, that like the shadow is important, but your shadow can, left unchecked, burn everything down. Or it can be this thing that you see and then you tend to it and it becomes just the right temperature so that it's there, but it's that nurturing sort of fire. So we do shadow work in the summer. Also, just as humans, I don't think anybody really needs to be sitting around and like consciously doing tons of shadow work deep dives in the winter when the days are short and dark and cold and seasonal depressions and winter moods are taking everybody over. Nobody needs that. I guess depending where you live in the world, but I live in Connecticut, and let me tell you that when it gets dark at 3:30, 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, your girl does not need to be diving into my shadows. I need a sun lamp and like some music and something to make me move in my house. I do not need to be doing like deep dive shadow work stuff. But your shadows also impact your inner child. So many of the shadows that we carry come from experiences we had as children. And well, I would say all of them are rooted in something that happened to you, something you witnessed, the way you see the world. It doesn't, we think of like bad when we think of shadows and shadow work. But I mean, if you are a person who was raised, as a woman in this world, you have certain ways that you feel like we're supposed to be. We shouldn't dress certain ways. We shouldn't say certain things. We should be a certain way in the home. We should be able to do everything, blah, blah, blah. And that's not necessarily like bad, right? That's not inherently a bad thing that happened to you, but it might bring up a shadow when you feel like, oh, should I be doing that? How come I can't do more? How come I can't live up to this expectation where my body looks this way and my house looks this way and my bank account looks this way, my partner looks this way, and all this stuff. So shadows also just come from like the way that we move through the world. But that's developed very young. So if we can put on your calendar something for playfulness, to tap into that inner child, perhaps even expand and grow an area that you have a shadow that keeps showing up for you. And using this season, the summer season, for this shadow work around inner child playfulness and tapping into your playful self and bringing that youthful energy back out, and maybe even beginning to like mend up a story that keeps you from doing something in your adulthood that you adopted from childhood, and start putting that on your calendar. One for me is certainly clothing. My mom never tried to manage the way that I dress. I'm really lucky in that way. I don't want to say lucky because that's not luck. That's just, more people should have that experience. But I was raised in a way that the women in my life did not ever question the clothes that I would wear. But I had definitely my mom's been married 3 times. So my first stepdad, my second dad, first stepdad, he had some real impressions put upon me around the way I should look, how I should dress. Long stories that are not for today, but I have found that not second guessing like what my body is showing when I get dressed has been something I've really had to like undo. And I feel like that I have always still dressed the way I want to dress, but it's the inner part, the inner like discomfort that comes with it. So I've never not done it, but there is a level of discomfort that comes with it. So this summer in particular, I really have been aware of having fun being just how I am. So I was recently with my kids on a camping trip that we went on, and we were staying right on a river. And it's like this big, rushing, crazy river. And my kids both know how to swim. My daughter's actually a better swimmer than I am, but the river is really strong and fast right in the middle. And they wanted to get to the other side of the river to like play on these rocks. So I had them put their life jackets on, even though they could touch, but you just never know. Like slippery rocks, slip, fall, get panicked, and they're kids. So I had on a two-piece bathing suit, like a bikini top bathing suit. And in the past, I still would have done it, but I would have been really like, oh my gosh, what are people going to say? Are they going to think like, your mom shouldn't be wearing that? What's going to happen? And I would have done it, but had this like dialogue playing. And I was really conscious this summer and just last week of wearing this going across the river. I was super conscious of saying, what would I think if I was a kid without all of these scripts running through me that have come through my energy over the years? Like my daughter would never, because we never say things like this to her and she's homeschooled, so she doesn't get influenced by like other kids either and what they would say or their parents would say. Like she would never think twice about putting on a bikini and going across the river. So I just was like, my inner child loves this top and we're gonna have so much fun and it's gonna be amazing. And I did it with more joy because I wasn't like constantly in my head thinking, what does this look like? Like what people are outside watching me right now? Who's uncomfortable because of me? Where, like I said, I never would have not done it, but I definitely would have had thoughts running through me that took some of my playful joy away. And I was really conscious about having that moment just totally playful. And just every time a thought would come in, being like, nope, nope, we're having fun. This is fun. It's playful. And there needs to be no criticism and fun and playfulness. So what I want you to do is think about for yourself with this next week, where can you do something for your inner child, for your pure playfulness and your pure joy? Before I started this, I was looking online at a couple of things as I do. And I found a study that was from the Journal of Mental Health Counseling, and they did a quality of life like study, and they looked at playfulness, age, and depression as indicators for quality of life late over age 55. And what they found was that age actually did not have any statistically significant impact on quality of life. Playfulness had a statistical significance to quality of life. And then the number one was depression as having the most influence on quality of life, which I find very interesting. And I bet doesn't really surprise anybody. And I would imagine, obviously, I am making assumptions. It does not say this. This is my assumption. I would imagine that depression would indicate less playfulness also. So I think that just seeing that is a really good reminder for us to find some playfulness. And then I found this other paper from the Neuroscience of Consciousness, Oxford Academic Journal, where they studied playfulness and found that people who, I don't want to read the whole thing to you because it'll take me like 5 minutes, but the abstract, from playfulness comes the positive embracing of uncertainty, which opens people up to do things at the edge of discomfort and areas where they would not have done it because it's uncomfortable and they don't know what's going to happen. So people who are more playful and enjoy more playfulness in their life are inherently more, they use the word expansive in here, which y'all, if you've been around, I love talking about expanding our energy and being expansive. So I read that and I was like, yes, this speaks to me. So people who are more playful were inherently more expansive, more curious, going outside their comfort zone, trying new things, and not worried about knowing the end result. So I really encourage you, as you do your vision casting for the week ahead and you think about, how do I want to feel? You start putting everything on your calendar. What am I doing? Is it a priority to me? Is it a value to me? If it's not, how do I put a plan in place to start pulling away from it, to start getting out of having to do this thing that I don't love again and again and again? And how do you insert some playfulness into your life? I will say too, just knowing the people who are here, the people like the age group of people in our community. Some of you I know very, very well from being here for years, or you're very active participants in our community. And I know how many of us have lives that can just feel hard, even though they're good lives. Like my life is amazing. I will say I have a pretty epic life, to the point that filling out my good witch, bad bitch summer list, I was like, what can I put on here that like is new or I wasn't going to do anyway, because I live a pretty epic life. And that doesn't mean my life doesn't feel hard. It doesn't mean that I don't wake up and feel really lonely sometimes. Like I was just thinking today about loneliness and how I'm constantly surrounded by people, constantly. I'm never alone. And yet some days I can feel so lonely. And I think it's because when you enter a certain stage of life, as most of you here can relate to, right? Aging parents to care for, and in my situation I have kids and aging grandparents who I'm responsible for. I have a marriage that needs tending to, because it's not an easy marriage. We are not innately good at marriage, my husband and I, so it needs tending. I own a company, I work full time. Like there is a lot happening. And what can happen, I think, is that it feels impossible to find playfulness, it feels impossible to find joy, it feels impossible to find the magic, which I think is why we will do more tarot spreads. We'll look for more like free readings on the internet, look for somebody to validate what's happening, buy the right next crystal. But I think it is so, so important to always start from, how do I want to feel? Look at your actual life. Where are you living a life that doesn't allow you to feel the way you want to feel? We cannot blame on all of the circumstances, like we can't look around and say, well, it's impossible because of all these circumstances I have. It's really just on us to say, where do I need support? Where do I need to let it go? Where do I need to loosen the grip? Where do I need to release expectation so that I can make room for playfulness and expand my capacity for the life I have? Which people ask me all the time, like, Sarah, how do you do all of this stuff? And I think that that's it. That I already know that's it. It's expanding the capacity for the life you have. And how do you do that? You work on your shadows, you find joy, you get playful, and you take control over your time. So it's not taking control over you. And the same with your money, all of this, like you have a constant energetic output. What you're doing with your time is a constant energetic output. You're sitting here right now listening to me talk, which I hope feels like an inspiration, and like you feel like you are ready to light a fire under this week and make it feel really, really epic. Alternatively, you can scroll social media for this last half hour and feel really bad about the world and really bad about your aunt, uncle, dad, mom, cousin, neighbor who posted this thing on the internet that just makes you cringe and want to go kick them. Right? That's an energetic output. You just spent energy on that. We're constantly having energetic outputs. And then what are we fueling ourselves with? And that's really on you to decide, what are you fueling yourself with? Because that is where you expand your capacity for the life that you have, rather than waiting for life to get better or fix it. We have to expand our capacity for the life we're currently living in order to have the energy to do something about that life if it doesn't feel great. Like if you want a new job, but you have no capacity to do anything about that, you're just going to keep at the job that you hate. If you want to fix a relationship, like not like, I don't want to use that word fix, repair a relationship rather than letting the relationship end. Like maybe you're waffling on, this was me a few years ago with marriage. Like, oh my gosh, can I even do this? And I really had to expand my capacity to be in this and take care of myself and see through the storm, rather than just saying, I don't have the energy for this, and like, let's just call it like it is and end this thing now, right? And so we've got to increase the capacity for the life we have to even understand really how we want to feel and what we're going to do about it. And playfulness, I think, and putting things on your calendar that make you feel alive is so, so crucial and so, so, so critical. I'm not reading all the comments, just like, so you know, like I just see keywords as they go by, but I saw depression go by a few times, and I can totally relate. If you don't know this part of my story, how what year is this? The year of, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, it's probably 16 years ago. Now I started taking antidepressants, and I took them for probably 2, 3 years, maybe upwards of 3 years. And it was really necessary for me in that point of time. And there has been definitely moments in the last few years in particular where I've really had moments where I've been like, I don't know what is up with me, but something is up. And I can say, without a doubt, that the things and obviously there's clinical depression and there's genetics and all that stuff plays into it. But in terms of, for my situation, and I do come from a family with a history of mental health issues. We've got schizophrenia in the family. We've got alcoholism in the family. We've got suicide in the family, abandonment issues in the family, undiagnosed autism, ADHD in the family, which shows up in a variety of ways for midwife women later on, PTSD, it's all in our family. And the things that have helped me the most really have been being in my body, have helped me the most, like really, really helped me the most being in my body. And I mentioned earlier in this that it's fair to say 60 to 90 minutes, 90 minutes on like my most ideal day, being in my body, either walking or dancing or stretching or doing like a 20-minute Pilates video, or I have like a rowing machine that I love to row and work out on. But it does take that amount of time for me to maintain my mental health, and stay off of not that I have anything wrong with medications. Like, y'all, you take medications when you need them. That's the beauty of this world we live in, this time, the science that's here to support us. Take them. But it does take me 60 to 90 minutes a day of being in my body practice to get that done. And how do I make that happen? Well, I don't watch TV. I don't scroll my cell phone. uh, I don't go drinking with friends. I don't do any of those things. So that time I would spend watching TV, being on my cell phone, drinking with friends, I spend moving my body. And it was definitely a practice. I'm not a natural born athlete. I'm about 5'3", maybe. I weigh like 162 pounds, and I got short arms, short legs, and I'm not like a natural born athlete. I have a heart murmur, makes me very, like, I get winded really fast. But definitely for me, the benefits outweigh my resistance to doing it. And I really set myself up for success. Like, I have a walking pad in my living room so I can walk no matter the weather. And yeah, and do a lot of walking, but that is the thing that helps me. And I watch, like, I listen to YouTube videos or audiobooks while I'm doing those things. Social media, commenting here in Circle to our community. I'll do that all while I'm walking on the walking pad. I almost fell one day recently. I was like way too in my phone on the thing. I think I was trying to put a video on Instagram, and I like tripped a little bit, and a walking pad is shorter than a traditional treadmill. So there's no, like, if you lose your stride, you'll go right off the back of it. And I started to stumble, tossed my phone across the living room. My family was like, what is going on with you? Like, nothing. I'm multitasking. Anyway, so that's my personal experience, which I know does not work for everybody. And just so you know, if you're looking at me and thinking like, Sarah, you must have some secret I don't have because all this sounds good. How does it work? I will say that it's a practice. It's a work in progress. You got to come up with the rhythm of visioning and planning first, and then figure out what your special thing is to take care of yourself. Turns out, after all these years of life, mine is movement. The doctor who prescribed me my antidepressants all those years ago, he said to me, eat more green vegetables. And when you feel like you can't stop crying, run down the road and turn around and run back. And he said, run till you can't breathe and turn around and run back. And he was like, your brain can't process like the depression emotion and the I can't breathe from exercising at the same time. And it took me, that was like 16 years ago. No, 17 years ago, probably. Yeah. I'm doing math. I think like 17 years ago. So it took me, I started really like taking care of my body probably in the last, I would say, year, 10 months or so, that I've like really in earnest been doing this like hard movement on myself or for myself. And it took me all that time. So it took me that's 16 years to listen to that advice. Uh, but it has been the best thing for me. That I use our 5 I thought model each and every day of my life. Like that runs through my brain. I mean, gotta be 10 times a day that I run through. How do I want to feel? What am I going to do to feel that way? Where's this story coming from? What's a way forward I haven't tried yet or that I haven't thought of? And I do that several times a day. That and movement are my key things for me that I have found to be helpful here, and also really disconnecting from like other people and expecting them to be a way. That was a big change for me and really hard for me to do because I was like, but I'm such an achiever. I don't understand why people who I'm expecting to achieve like 50% less can't keep up. And it really took a lot for me to be like, well, it's just not for me to even question. Like, it's not for me to consider. It's not for me to care about whatsoever. And just say, like, who am I? How do I want to feel? How am I making that happen? And completely like detach from other people and outcome and whatnot. So anyway, all right. Well, that was a lot in a Sunday coffee chat. I hope that y'all are feeling the magic, the power, the sun shining on your soul to go out and make this week a magic one and get it going for you. All right, then. Well, I'm going to round us off here for now. Some things coming up this week. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I know if you're in Holistic Witchery, Astrology Fundamentals is happening. So you got a couple calls for that this week. Otherwise, I think it's a slower week here in Sisters Enchanted Land, which is rare for us. So if you've been looking for some catch-up time and you're in our programs, this is your week. If you're doing the lunar tracking challenge with us as part of Born Magic, Magical Self-Care, make sure to put your info in those daily posts. Head on over to your Sunday, your inbox, your email. We sent out the Sunday email this morning. Oh, Tony says there's book club this week. Well, thank you. Good looking out. Takes a village. The Sunday email that went out today has a little info in there for you on making your own fairy circle, which is a really great way to do some of that, bring some of that playfulness into your life. And my word for this lunar cycle, how I want to feel, I picked like a thing to embody. So for this lunar cycle, I picked a fairy queen. Like, I want to feel like a fairy queen. And I picked that because of my experience, like really working on being playful in my bathing suit without constantly thinking about what other people were thinking looking at me. So I picked that. But then I don't know if any of you know the book The Magicians, or it was a TV show after, like a couple years ago now. But the fairy queen in that, she was like one of those like bad fairies that you don't want to cross, but she like really protected her own, but she'd also like kill a person with her eyes. So to be honest, when I picked fairy queen, I was sort of thinking like that, like protect my own, be playful, and also like stand my ground like that fairy queen. So I kind of pulled from different ideas of what a fairy feels like. So that was mine. Oh, Beth, read the books. Were so good, Beth. If you didn't read the books, there's 3 of them. So that was mine. I want to feel like a fairy queen this lunar cycle. And it rained all day yesterday, so I have not really done anything fairy queen like, but we'll see. Anyway, all right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate you being here as part of the Sisters Enchanted. If we can help you with anything at all, you can always email us at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. Help you find your way around. Anything that came through that I did not address here and you're like, oh, I had a burning question, you can send it in, and Jenna can always help sort you out, get you in the right place, because I know the comments are going and I was just trying to stay focused here today. So thank you all. Appreciate you being here. And I will see you next week for our next coffee chat. All right. Bye, everyone. If you love the podcast, be sure to leave us a rating or a review. That helps us to get the word out about all we're doing here at the Sisters Enchanted. Thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next episode.